What happens when you achieve product market fit? Basically means that customers love your product. They'd be unhappy if they couldn't have it. The whole point of customer development is to create a product that people really want and really ideally enjoy, and it's easy to get the value that they want to get out of it. So I was checking out a review of the Rabbit R1 earlier today. The reviewer was from Marcus Brownlee, a well-known YouTuber. He recently reviewed this other AI pin startup where it'd be like a pin that you would wear, project, its responses like onto your hand, for example. Some people were blaming him for basically kind of tanking that startup allegedly just in one review with obviously millions of viewers, and saying that it was a terrible product, way too much cost, and not a great experience or positive in terms of the utility and overall value it offered. When this other review just came out of the Rabbit R1 from Marcus, where the title is barely reviewable, and because obviously it's based on AI, I said, let me check this out. I was watching it while I was getting ready this morning. A couple of things really stand out to me that I think are relevant to like what we're doing as a company right now with Growbo, which is our AI business growth automation platform, where we have teams of agents who are going to be in like a structured conversation, aka workflow. They'll just kind of move through and collaborate with themselves and with other humans and customers to basically get work done with a focus on marketing, although, just internal operations could be automated too. So we're building this platform in real time, and I'm recording these videos, sharing with you guys what I'm learning as we're going here. But one of the things that really stood out to me, this review that I relate to, and one of the key takeaways, as he's reviewing this Rabbit R1 product, I guess part of it is stubbornness and ego, or just lack of organization, poor priorities, just rushing to market like crazy, because it's this square piece of hardware with a screen, and it has like a scroll wheel on it. So you hold it in one hand and you can basically just use your thumb to scroll up and down. As he was explaining like the overall user experience with the UI, you basically, when you're scrolling on the screen for the Rabbit R1, if you're not familiar, by the way, it's basically like an AI assistant in your pocket. It's like ChatGPT in your pocket. AI in a box is what he calls it. You can point it at different things and it will like tell you what it is, or information about it, like, oh, what's this type of flower? What's this type of food? The idea, as he explains it in the review, is that it's useful for answering questions. Makes sense. That's pretty much how I use AI. So when you scroll on this screen and on this device to navigate like text and information pages, you have to scroll all the way back to the top every single time in order to actually then go back. So that's thing number one. Thing number two that was interesting that stood out to me was the fact that it is a touch screen. You can touch the screen because there is like a terminal mode you can go into where you turn the device sideways, so the scroll wheel that's usually just with your thumb on the one side, you turn it this way, and then a keyboard will pop up and you can kind of type on it. And the reviewer here was speculating that, maybe they just didn't really do that by default in terms of the user experience because they didn't want it to be like a smartphone. This seems reasonable to me because having worked in various teams and seen patterns over time, in terms of product development, as well as kind of watching myself in developing products and making similar mistakes in the past, I do wonder if this was like kind of an ego-driven decision or just a stubbornness type of decision where it's like, no, we need to be different. So even though it's a worse experience to just use the scroll wheel, and even though it is literally a touch screen, we're not going to make it easy for people to like touch it to scroll up and down, or just more intuitive for typing or whatever. It's like as if the feature was just kind of like just put into the back with the experience coming second. And almost as if in some ways too, they just didn't do adequate testing and or just ignored some of these priorities and just said, what, let's just get it out to the market and we'll make it better maybe later if we get enough pressure or whatever. I relate to this in terms of the live customer demo interviews that I'm doing right now. We just started this week, been doing them for the last 2 days, and I feel like I'm learning an incredible amount. And another word for these customer demo interviews would be customer development. Customer development is sort of an academic term that was popularized by some entrepreneurs like Neil Patel and Steve Blank. It's just basically the idea that you're developing a product that if you were to take it away, you can, with surveys basically tell that, okay, the customer would be unhappy and therefore you have achieved product market fit. And what happens when you achieve product market fit? Basically means that customers love your product. They'd be unhappy if they couldn't have it. And you basically have a home run latent sitting on your hands. You just have to go out and market it once you achieve product market fit. It's basically like, the prelude, I suppose, to traction and then scale and massive growth, hopefully. The whole point of customer development is to create a product that people really want and really ideally enjoy, and it's easy to get the value that they want to get out of it. So as I'm doing these interviews with Growbo early access customers, I'm just kind of realizing the platform, it works, but damn, we got some things to fix and we got some other things that we need to focus on. But that being said, I feel like this is really like a blessing in disguise for sure, because if we had waited any longer to do these customer interviews, we could be just completely in the dark. Versus now, I'm actually more confident in the value that we're ultimately going to give to customers. And I just feel like, unlike with past products that I've worked on, that I developed, like this one, it's going to make an impact. I want to build it with integrity, and I want to build it in a way that I just improve from past products I've worked on that I built myself from scratch, where maybe just because of constrained resources and time, I almost felt forced to cut corners in certain ways. And this one, we made certain promises and we're going to deliver on those promises. So, for example, one of the top benefits you get from doing live customer demo interviews, and here's the format, and you can, choose your own format. You can do variations of this. Right now, I'm just sitting down one-on-one with customers who, for us, they paid $1 to reserve their spot, and we're just hopping on Zoom, and I'm doing a screen share presentation after we kind of talk for a few minutes, get to know each other, then just actually showing them live a demo of the product. There's no slides, there's none of this, because my instinct was, why over prepare in that way when the goal was to learn and to confirm that there weren't any underlying assumptions that we missed. Does the market like the product? What should we be focused on? Is this good enough for us to start charging for now? So why get out a pitch deck? Just show the damn product. I did 3 interviews, and we have more coming up this week and then more next week. When I did the first customer interview just the other day, I did testing beforehand, but then there were like errors like coming up, like little bugs, little things about the experience that weren't smooth. And I don't even know to what extent the customer who was in front of me actually noticed it or not. I mean, a couple of things like, yeah, for sure. Like I would have to like refresh and then, okay, then it would work, or wait a minute. And then the server would kind of catch up and it would, do the work. But to me, it's like, okay, like when I was kind of testing in a controlled sort of test where it was like, okay, I know that if I push X, I'm going to get Y, and I would push X and look at that, I get Y. But when I'm varying it, from the live demo and the customer's like, okay, like I want it to do this. Can we do that? And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of close to what I think it can do. Let's find out. And then it would either work all the way or there would be some sort of, friction in the process. And I would notice this friction because I'm in the driver's seat. The customer's in the passenger seat, but they're saying where they want to go. And I'm taking us there. And I'm noticing the roads that maybe there's a dead end and we got to back up, turn around to get to the destination. So the empathy level is just like skyrocketed, because I'm right there, right next to them in the car, seeing them kind of like driving a little bit for them, but they're kind of like directing a bit more so. So I'm kind of like seeing it through their eyes. Thanks to that, I know what to focus on now. I know what we as a team need to focus on to get the customer from zero to paying, parentheses, gladly paying, and from our end, promoting, parentheses, confidently promoting with integrity. And that word is really important to me because we put together a demo with screens and designs back in December where it was like a click-by-click demo. And we showed like, okay, here's how you set it up. Here's how you link up some key integrations like WordPress, for example, ActiveCampaign for CRM, email newsletter. And here's how it works, click by click. And so we promised 3 initial key integrations to launch with, and we are going to deliver 3 initial key integrations to go with. But while we know that that is one thing to focus on, I'm realizing that like just making sure that the UI UX is being just really polished is so important. And that these little points of friction where we get stuck or it gets a little bit slow and then it keeps going though. That is just really critical. Just making it smooth, like really smooth. Like the value, I think, of that by itself cannot be underestimated. And some other insights, that in terms of like what we're going to add to the product. But those would be kind of like two of the top three, the key integrations, because we want to do that with integrity, and also just it maximizes the utility that this is going to bring. Like, for example, just being able to hook this thing up to a search engine where it can do research and get real-time news, it makes it tremendously more useful. It's already useful, but increases it significantly. And then the UI UX polishing. The second top key benefit that I've been realizing is where the bottleneck is and where it isn't in terms of the company and commercializing the Growbo platform. Where the bottleneck is and where it isn't. And it almost feels like from experience that just operating from this principle, like where's the bottleneck now? Let's run over there. Let's unclog it. Where's the bottleneck now? Let's run over there and let's unclog that. That by itself, as time goes on, where I have much more time and years under my belt and products and services, just understanding that as my hands right now with our team are just like in the mud in a good way, because that's where they need to be. But we're just in the mud, getting dirty, as we take wrenches and, whatever, and hammer nails and blah, blah, blah to build and to improve. Where's the bottleneck? Is it in we need more tools? Is it that we need more bodies, more talent on the frame of the house or the building to, put it up? And what I've realized is that it's really the speed of product development at this moment, because before the bottleneck, which wasn't really a bottleneck, it was more so like a key step. It's really just kind of like a lack of enough data to know and or confirm certain assumptions and like where we were going. And I feel like those are confirmed now with just the limited data and interviews that we've done so far. I'll be doing another 2 today. But already I can see it's like, like the product is right there. And I can see like this is going to be really, really something special. But we have to get it in these key ways across this mini milestone lines in terms of like features and polishing. So product development, speed of product development for us right now is the key bottleneck. For your business, wherever you're at, the bottleneck is always shifting, right? For us, this bottleneck depends on the quantity and quality of people on the product team. So the solution, as I see it to this, is just better organization and focus. So in other words, like we just brought on a new developer and I can already see like we're kind of scrambling. It looks like, and I'm kind of like, because just before this call, we were going over estimates for the list of items that we want to get done, where we think, not that it's going to be perfect, we still have like a million other things that we want to add to this platform. But with this next list, it's like 170 hours. And I'm like, we don't have a month to put into this. So we're going to have to figure that out and prioritize. And some of it surely can be pushed down or just won't take as long. Plus we have 2 developers now instead of, 1, plus myself. So better organization and focus, better process also, which I'll talk about as the third thing coming up. I'll tell you that in a second. But the other solution to this is just recruiting the best possible people. So maybe we'll hire a third developer to really speed things up. But in terms of competing priorities, we have to also start, I think, using the product itself to help us promote our core done-for-you service with talented humans, which is our main driver of revenue while we are building the bike over here while riding it. That's what we're going to do. Probably by the time you see this, we'll probably be a lot farther along, which is cool because you can see the progression as we come out with these videos and I share the insights with you. And you can see like how exactly what I'm saying, I'm confident is going to be panning out in terms of like just sharing like what I'm learning. It's like, okay, well, that lesson learned was actually true. And here's how you can see the progression and how it evolved. Looking for and understanding what is the bottleneck and then what do you need to do to alleviate it, super critical. The final and third thing, the third of the top 3 benefits, is you realize how the dev team and team in general were just not testing well. And I relate this right back to what I said at the beginning about seeing the product review for the R1. And it's like, this is a physical product. It's a lot more difficult to change hardware and like physical product and issues with the UI, UX, UI meaning like the physical UI and overall like, key assumptions built into the product, whatever, after it's like in hardware form factor. We're lucky because by comparison, what we're building is a software-based platform, right? But it looks like the R1 team either was stubborn, had an ego, or just didn't, care enough to test adequately and take feedback to a degree which customers were giving it, or maybe they just constructed the customer test in some sort of a faulty way. You got to swing the hammer with your product tests. And this includes for services and productized services too. Like, go through the process from the perspective of your customers. Like in the case of a service, I remember when I was a teenager, just starting in college, for a summer in between my freshman and sophomore year of college, I worked at Panera Bread. I wake up at like 5:30, 6 in the morning. I guess for some people that's normal. For me, it's like super early. But then I would actually volunteer to work these 12-hour shifts because I just wanted to maximize how much I was earning. But what I learned about how they ran the business is that although it's kind of like a productized service because you have a human, like preparing the coffee and the, gathering your food and toasting your bagel, whatever, especially with the breakfast crowd, they would have, like, we would be warned in advance that the company would be hiring and sending in like secret shoppers, right? Secret shoppers. Like, who's a secret shopper? Like, oh no, is this it? Because they're going to score the experience, and part of, you as an employee, you're delivering that experience. So you need to like be on top of your game. You want to have a so-called secret shopper, even in the case of a service or a productized service. It's a little bit easier and different, at least, with a product like the platform for Growbo that we're building. That's why I'm so grateful for these live customer demo interviews where there's an opportunity, honestly, to make mistakes. It's not so much a controlled environment. Every customer is different. Some have a certain attitude about AI, for example. Others are like really enthusiastic. And each business too is also different. And you can also see the patterns start to emerge from talking with each of them in terms of like what they not just are different between them, but what are the patterns in terms of either feedback or general just like approach, reaction to the product itself. And especially too in terms of like how our engineering software development team works. I think the solution is just random, recorded, rapid, aggressive interactions with the product's interface and UI. And I say that because it shouldn't be easy for me to go in and just like aggressively like poke at the UI and then have something fall out in terms of like, I don't know, like an error, like, can't contact the server or something like this. That is an indication to me that the team needs more training, and I need to encourage them and do a better job as the leader of the team to be like, yo, you got to poke the hell out of this thing, and you got to be recording it, and you want to be doing it quickly, right? So that if you're doing it quickly and you don't know how to replicate the error, because software code can be complex, and it's just being able to replicate an issue is about 50% of the solution, right? Because if you can replicate it, then you don't have to go and try to interpret the code to find like, oh, okay, where's the issue in the logic that is causing this issue? So doing that in an aggressive way to kind of like see if things are going to like, something's going to fall out of it, that is, I think, really key. And I blame myself for not doing that more aggressively in the previous 2 months, but live and learn. These are the top 3 benefits of doing live, emphasis on live, because with live things, they're not pre-scripted too much. Things can go wrong, and that is actually a good thing. And you can start to see when an early product is doing better because you'll remember those earlier interviews and you'll see the progression in terms of improvement. Top 3 benefits, what to focus on in terms of priorities. For us, it's key integrations and polishing the user experience above all. Number 2, you realize where the top bottleneck is in terms of your company. If it's product development like it is for us, or if it's maybe somewhere else. If you're doing customer interviews, maybe the probability that the bottleneck is going to be like speed of product development for you is actually pretty high. But just in general, be aware of bottlenecks and the principle of bottlenecks in terms of like company growth and evolution. There's always going to be a bottleneck. Your job is to run around and engineer the hell out of it so that it is alleviated, and then the bottleneck will form somewhere else, and you got to run over there and alleviate that so you can keep growing and progressing. And finally, testing adequately, testing well. Swing the hammer. Don't just tap on the button. No, swing the hammer, random, rapid, recorded, aggressive interactions with the product to see, can you break it and what can you learn from it? And also, of course, structured testing and the interviews themselves are a way of swinging the hammer too, because when it's live, you don't know what's going to happen. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got value from it, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. And if you found this valuable. Also, please consider sharing it with others who may also find it valuable, because it's recommendations like yours that help this channel to keep growing and encourage us to continue to do great work and share these types of real-time, boots on the ground, battle-tested insights with you. Because they truly are battle-tested. You know, I've been an entrepreneur since my sophomore year in college, and it's over 17 years at this point, 17, 18 years. Company today that has evolved into Growbo. I started it 14 years ago this month. So continue to follow along, hit subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the comments. And if you'd like to learn more about what Growbo, the AI growth automation platform, can do for you and your business, check us out at growbo.com, and you can still, at this moment, get early access and reserve your spot for $1. All right, I'll see you in the next video and maybe in the comments. Take care.